Press. I'll introduce our principal officers first of all. So to my right, we have Mr. Oliver Bolter, Strategic Manager for Planning and Infrastructure. To his right, Ms. Sarah Wilkinson, Planning Development Manager. We have Mr. Russell Chick, to her right, Planning and Development Manager. We have Mr. Neil Troughton from Island Roads on my extreme right. To my left, we have Ms. Jodie Gibson, who is our legal advisor, and our committee clerk, Ms. Marie Bartlett, on the far left. To remind everyone, there are no planned fire drills during this meeting, so if you hear the fire alarm, please treat it as a real emergency and evacuate the building via the nearest safe escape route. The nearest escape route is via the signposted set of stairs to your left as you leave the council chamber or the public gallery. Exit via the back of the building, walk across the car park around the building to the evacuation point, which is the pavement opposite the police station. Lifts cannot be used in the event of an emergency. Please don't re-enter the building unless you're advised it is safe to do so by a member of staff. If I could just ask for everyone to check quickly that your phones are switched off or to mute. And for all of our public speakers, welcome. Just to remind you to use the microphones when you're speaking. It's the silver button to the right and the red light will illuminate. If I could just remind everyone that no food is consumed unless it's for a medical need. Members of the committee will be aware that you cannot leave the chamber during the presentation or the debate, and if you do so, you'll be unable to vote. And for anyone watching in the public gallery, here purely to watch and keep any public participation to an absolute minimum, that is to say, not at all. I'll run through the lighting system. So when you're asked to speak, the green light will illuminate. Then the amber light will flash when you have a few seconds remaining. And then finally the red light, and I'll draw you to a conclusion. So that concludes our housekeeping. We move on then to apologies. So we've had some changes. Councillor Critchison and Councillor Mosdell have left the committee, and we thank them very much for their esteemed service. We have Councillor Brodie returning. Very welcome to see Councillor Brodie again. We have Councillor Love. Thank you very much, Councillor Love, for the last two planning committees of this session. And we have Councillor Ward substituting for Councillor Oliver. So thank you very much, Councillor Ward. I don't believe there are any other changes, so we will move on to the previous minutes. Are there any addendum errata or suggestions? Councillor Jeffrey.
Yes, Chair. I did send my apologies for the last meeting. You received.
It's not that. I'm sorry. We'll update that to reflect it. Thank you. You certainly did. Anything else? In which case, those in favour and against, abstain. It's carried. I will just sign those. Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? Splendid. In which case we move on to public question time. I don't believe we've received any written questions, so I don't know if there's any questions extempore. Doesn't look like it. Thank you very much. In which case we move to agenda item 5. So this is reference 25/01793/RVC. This is land between Nettleston Hill and Seaview Lane. And we turn now to Ms. Wilkinson for our presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman. Oh, you can hear me. I don't need to bring that any closer. Good afternoon, councillors. I have incorporated some slides for members' attention. Obviously, this is for a variation of conditions, so the principle of the development has been established through outline and reserve matters consent. But I have incorporated a few slides just to be able to visualise some of the proposed changes to the conditions. Application site relates to the area in red on the plan in front of you. Moving through those slides, this is the same plan, but as you can see, one area of it I've just zoomed in a bit on. So this is the approved layout as part of the reserve matters application. This incorporates an area, apologies, I will put my laser pointer on. This incorporates the area for the car parking that's referred to in condition 15. The application seeks to vary condition 15 and remove condition 19. The variations to condition 15 would allow that car park to be used for the school and the wider community. We have already granted consent via this committee for that change, but because the application in relation to this planning reference would represent a fresh planning permission, the applicant has incorporated that variation for completeness, but we have already previously approved that. You will see I have also highlighted an area which we identified on the site visit, which is the proposed bus stop relocation. The application also seeks to remove condition 19 in its entirety. That condition wording is set out in your officer report or in the officer report, so I'm not going to read it out, but in essence, it requires a traffic regulation order for no waiting, or in essence, WLO lines along an aspect of Seaview Lane and a bus stop cage. So although the bus stop cage cannot be done without a TRO, the bus stop relocation can. So that isn't subject to the TRO process. And that is also included within other conditions of the application. So specifically, I think I'm right in saying condition 11, yes, requires the relocation of that bus stop still. So although the bus stop cage wouldn't be constructed, the bus stop would still be relocated. In essence, it's currently located in around this position. If I can get that to identify, around here, in a hedge. And so it would be relocated to the point shown by the arrow and the zoomed in feature. This is effectively a plan of that layout rather than a kind of a Google image. And that shows the highway aspects of that layout. I've incorporated this so councillors can see for completeness. This was also provided on the site visit. The footpath work or the pavement works around the proposed site access and down this element of Seaview Lane to where the bus stop would be relocated around this point. And then the footpath that runs then from the end of what is essence the cul-de-sac to join Nettleston Hill, and the footpath that then runs down here in terms of the public footpaths. So I thought it would be useful for councillors for context to see those approved plans. I've also incorporated some photographs. Obviously, we were on site on Friday. Councillors had the opportunity to see the road configuration as well as the existing parking situation along that element of Seaview Lane. But I've included a range of photographs taken at different times of day. So the darker ones were actually taken, so on this side of the screen, were actually taken when the original application was determined. The ones, the lighter ones, the newer ones as we go through, were actually taken over the course of a week in recent weeks, to show different levels of car parking in and around that area. So I will run through those, and they show the vehicles that are parked on Seaview Lane as you travel up and down that road. Obviously, we saw that during the site visit. The application has come about following the refusal of the TRO to the ERTI committee. The red hatching on this plan shows where the existing WLO lines are within this part of Nettleston, and the blue was the proposed area for that traffic regulation order and those WLO lines. That is what has been refused, and therefore the application seeks to remove the condition that requires that work and to change the wording for the provision of the car park. That is in essence the completeness of the application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilkinson. We turn now then to the public speaking element of this presentation. So if I could ask Ms. Catherine Holmes to speak. Ms. Holmes, you have 3 minutes. No apologies, it might be booting up. I don't know if there's, yeah. Oh, thank you very much. Great. Okay, thank you. I think so, yes. Yeah, whenever you're ready, I think that's ready.
It's very narrow. It doesn't really fit any logic. But we have 6, 8.
Sorry to interrupt. We'll give you some time in lieu of that. Could we have somebody pass over their mic just so we've got, it's simply so that people watching at home can hear. I think we can all hear in the room, but yeah.
That one. Can everyone hear me now? Yay, third time lucky.
If you'd like to recommence, I feel that would be fair given the interruption. We'll start the timer again once Ms. Bartlett's returned to her place.
Okay, I'm a resident of Holgate Lane. On Holgate Lane, we literally are opposite the current entrance of the proposed build. We have got a tiny lane. I mean, like, it's not even the width of a proper road. So we at the moment have, when you saw those photos, it was quite nice to see no cars parked there, but I took photos at 8 a.m. today and I took photos at 2 p.m. today. There was more cars. I have counted before now 30 cars parking between our road, and I mean blocking our road, all the way up. So you would think I would be really happy about having double yellows. The answer is no, because 3 reasons. One, as I said, we have old people who need vehicles to get in our road, and some of them are too big, so they have to park outside our road to get there. 2 is children, and that is, no one is pointing out how close the school is. So what happens, we have got them all coming in their cars, usually with grandparents. I hasten to say that 90% of the drop-offs are grandparents. And what happens is they all come, and to park, they will come earlier. So today I left at 2 o'clock to get the bush stop. And literally you're already getting them parking up there. So the point is, if you put double yellows there, where are they all going to park? There's only one answer, isn't there? You've got to park against our road and on the way down. And it's difficult to explain, but we're literally at the top of the hill. It's just literally there. So people come driving at about 70 miles an hour, and I'm not joking. Nick has put a thing on it because he was so worried for the old people. And it came up at 70 when there's no one parking. However, when you have all these people parking, they know they're parking for school runs and what have you, they slow down. So when do you think I come out on my bike? I came out when I knew that all those people were parking, so everyone's going to have to slow down so I can get out of my road. As soon as those double yellows go there, they will continue to go ridiculously fast. I have seen, and it's happened to me, my husband has been knocked off twice coming out of our road when it is not parked up, because people go, oh, sorry, we didn't know you had a road. We thought it was just the back of something. And I worry for the children who cross our road, because of what I haven't said is our road leads to Seagrove Pavilion. So lots of parents and grandparents all park, and then they walk, or if they're very nice, they don't park with us, they park at Seagrove, and they go and walk down our road, down the footpath, that way to Seagrove to park. So our road is effectively a main road and part of Nettleston Primary, because people use it all the time. And if you put double yellows, as all of them say, it is the best of a bad deal, because at the moment, it's slowing those people down. As soon as you don't do that, I'm expecting a child or me to be killed. End
Thank
of.
you very much, Ms. Holmes. Thank you. We turn now to Mr. Mark Greener-Davies. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to have a voice at your meeting. Mark Greener-Davies, a resident of Nelson Green for 20 years. I'm also the chairman of the Nelson Residents Association. I'm here to object to the proposal on 3 points. Number 1, highway safety. Number 2, risk to children and parents moving to and from the school. And 3, parking in the area. And I've never met this lady before, Catherine has pointed out that the speeds of those vehicles, especially in the summer months, you know, when we get visitors down from the mainland, we call them locally DFLs, down from London. They're not used to our roads, and obviously they travel up there as quickly as they can. And if there's no vehicles parked up on the side of the road, that can be an issue. In my lifetime, I've seen 2 accidents at the end of the green, one at the top, one at the bottom. Both of them are on the blind corner, one coming from Seaview Lane, one coming from Helston Hill. So just moving up that stretch of road, which is 30 metres long, is an issue. I believe that if there is no vehicles parked in that road, which act as a traffic calming measure, then the speeds will increase and then the risk will increase. That's my view. As far as the children moving about, my daughter used to live in the village at one stage until she heard about this contentious planning application. Her house is directly across from where the new residential places will be. They would have had a view into her children's bedroom, and she decided to move from the area. Obviously, the school, 72% of the kids at that school come from out of area. 214 kids places, and of that, over 100 plus cars coming in each day. Yes, lots of them will park on the estate. Most of them park on the road. Come onto the car park in a minute, but you know, they have to come into the area. The school, bless their socks, have had staggered entry and exit. So there's 2 in the morning, 1 at lunchtime for the preschool, and then 2 in the afternoon when the children and parents leave and come back. The car park at the local store has offered parents to park in there, and they allow them 45 minutes, and there's a parking area for parents, and that has alleviated some of the parking that we have. However, parking is still an issue within the you will see by your map that there's already double yellow lines there that curtails people being able to park. This isn't a case where people work and they go to work at 8 o'clock, the parents and teachers come in at 9 o'clock, and it's like one big round robin at park. The people of the village, you know, are all sections of the community, retired people, disabled people, you know. At the end of the day,
I'll
not
allow you to
enough
finish.
parking, and the car park won't answer the problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We turn now to Councillor.
Car park condition 50 was to accommodate the school staff. It was always unpopular, sitting within the Vista sightline that the planners want preserved. 3 years later, after the first refusal of parking restrictions in Seaview Lane, suddenly, I'd say cynically, the school didn't need these spaces, and it was proposed, regrettably agreed, to make it a general public use. Cited in the 2022 officer report as a displacement for locals using Seaview Lane as overflow parking and parents at school time, thereby encouraging a revisit of the TRO. Another 3 years on, and a new justification in official reports quoting the 2017 parish plan that has never been adopted as an SPD by the council, finding insufficient spaces in the village, quote, to serve the people using the shop or the school, suggesting the car park is a solution. But in 2024, the shop moved across the road. There is to a large customer car park and 45 minutes of parking allowed for parents, etc. As has been said, a lot still park in the road. It identifies they won't use any car park. The car park is nonsensical, it's not wanted and it's not needed. And the worst aspect of what is a flawed proposal, now including a height barrier floating within that protected vista. This committee hopefully has an opportunity to get rid of it. Removing condition 19 is not a planning issue, as it relates solely to highway safety. The applicant claims the TRO refusal twice by council committees is because the council has concluded the road is not dangerous. But the anticipated dangers always related to the post-development and not to the existing. There is currently no vehicular pedestrian use from the field. The portal now shows a so-called rebuttal of the dangers. It's dated 2018, so it was actually available when officers promoted condition 19 on safety grounds. And what's more, its purpose with highway assistance and fully supported by officers was that the vehicle and pedestrian demand on this part of the network would significantly change if the development is approved. The TRO was correctly refused according to policy because there are no current reported incidents, recently confirmed, I see, to officers. There is also a recognition that parked cars slow traffic. It doesn't take many to do so. it follows that restrictions would add more danger. Network and safety concerns have not changed. Condition 19 is still applicable. The current officer report claims no dispute that the proposed development would increase two-way vehicle flows. It then claims the assessment was based on a scheme for 34 units in total, with the implication that a supposed reduction to 17 units means less movements. But the original 2019 report clearly states that the layout master plan shows a total of 17 units, including 6 sheltered flats. So condition 19 was agreed for 17 units currently discussed. Trip rate information commuter systems, which is TRIX, estimates movements per household for new developments, estimating between 5.5 and 7.5 movements per day, which includes visitors and deliveries. Taking an average of 6.5 then, this equates for the 17 dwellings to 110.5 trips per day onto a road unsafe. Compound this with 20 car parking spaces added as a potential of 40 movements per day and more if parents were to use it, not forgetting those who find no space and therefore exit. I want to stress now that the committee report for the development in 2019 stated clearly the only matter to be considered at this time is access. Condition 19 was the outcome of that committee decision and demonstrates that full weight must be given to it. It should not be lightly dismissed. Dangers to the new inhabitants and their services exactly as was in October 2019 when condition 19 was applied, except there's now an acceptance that if the condition was applied, the dangers would increase. Island Roads appears to have changed its view, but meeting with several Island Road officials, Councillor Adams and I found this not to be true. Island Roads felt it inappropriate to eject on a revision, but still need safety assurances. They will review when the development is inhabited. If changes are necessary, amendments will be needed, possibly TRO again, paid from the public purse this time rather than the developer who is responsible at point of permission. In 2022, this exact same application came forward to committee. Then Island Roads had no such reservation and categorically recommended refusal. There is no change. Through 8 years of discussion and 3 occasions of official consideration by Isle of Wight Council, officers have been adamant that condition 19 is appropriate for the extra activity caused by the development. It's a key factor to the permission was created for safety reasons. It's clear the development was not thought through properly in its haste to justify and give it traction. Highway safety issues should have been resolved prior to approval. Instead, it seems priority was given to ensuring that this unnecessary proposal was agreed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We turn to Mr. David Long. He's the agent speaking on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Long, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, some of you are kind of well versed with this application. It's been going on since the original submission and outline was in 2018. Actually, since 7 years prior to that, my clients engaged with the parish council on the pretext of actually positive discussions to address local housing needs and things like addressing the interface with the school parking capacity. So in particular, condition 19, the TRO had a very specific reason for it. And actually, when you're testing a condition, the reason for the condition is more important than the condition itself. And the reason for the condition is in the interest of highway safety. So to note, my client's consultant at the point of original submission, we've never actually confirmed that there was a highway safety issue. However, my client had a positive duty to cooperate and accepted that condition 19 could still mature, and hence the resolution to grant by committee. So what then happened? The TRO advanced in accordance with the parameters of condition 19, and then in accordance with the officer's advice, went forward. At that very same meeting, Councillor Andre was, I noted, on that committee for the TRO. The structural policy of the council's TRO policy changed. What did that mean for Gibwell Field? Well, it meant because the car park associated with the school wasn't available to displace the car parking for TRO, the application got refused. One can draw some relationship, if you want to, about why the structural policy was changed in the first place, but we'll park that for now. What happened then? So in order to address the TRO policy, my client went back through section 73 of the Planning Act to allow the car park to be used for the school and the community. That addressed the reason for the TRO refusal. This committee approved that section 73 application. And by virtue of the subsequent reserve matters application, the community car park was also controlled by section 106 agreement, all controlled. So then proceeding to the TRO application recently, again, with officer's recommendation to approve, what happened? It once again got rejected. Councillor Ian Ward was at that meeting as well as Councillor Fuller. And I'll remind the remit of the TRO under some very specific direction. And this is quite important for your decision tonight. So the direction of the TRO, this is the duty under section 16 of the Traffic Management Act 2004, including the view to facilitate the passage on the road and any other road of any class of traffic, including pedestrians, for avoiding danger to persons or other traffic using the road. That was the remit of the TRO decision. It then goes on to section 22, which requires the local authority to ensure convenient, safe movement of traffic, including pedestrians, on the provision of adequate parking facilities. That is the council, what the council is making a decision on via that TRO. And again, linked back to the TRO condition under 19, remember, in the interests of highway safety, they are mutually linked. When drawing to the very limited representations from some of the council members on that TRO, Councillor Adams, quote, directly, the proposal would not achieve the aims to improve highway safety because it reduces safety. It would conflict with TRO policy, which restricts new development to take place. The proposed car park offers no mitigation as there is no guarantee it will be available. Factually incorrect given the legal agreement.
Councillor Adams.
Councillor Jarman then confirmed this is a deja vu application, nothing has materially changed.
But I apologise, Mr. Long. If there is any more outcry from the public gallery, I will have to clear it. Mr. Long is entitled to make his representations. It's quite serious that I have had to stop him halfway through. Luckily, he is an experienced old hand, but nevertheless, no offence, Mr. Long. This is something that we need to secure in terms of it going forwards democratically. So this will be my last point on the matter. I will then clear the public gallery. Thank you. Long.
Members, I can assure you that I do not lie. I'm just telling you a factual position. There's no. So, Councillor Jarman, this is a deja vu application and nothing has materially changed. Factually incorrect. The previous application was refused on current safety considerations. And then Councillor Jarman agreed with the police authority, who noted their position in the TRO. Having no natural ability to park vehicles presents a natural chicane being formed which slows vehicles down, i.e. without the TRO, it's safer. Then Councillor Jarman goes on to say the proposal would result in the loss of much needed on-street parking. And then finally, in very short debate, Councillor Blake then said, on-street parking delivers traffic calming measures, and he encouraged this within his own ward because he's trying to reduce speeds. So the TRO under the section 16 and 122, via your condition, you empowered that committee to make a decision on highway safety, and they went against officer's recommendation to determine that it is safe without the TRO. So we then go down to the quite confusing position with respect to, say, Councillor Adams and the Parish Council. When presented with a planning application, they say the TRO is necessary. When we go to the TRO application, they say refuse it because it's safe, don't worry about it. And then we get in this circular loop. So effectively, the council is an argument with itself against the TRO policy, who is the decision maker, and then the planning authority at planning committee. Where does this present us? within planning statement, I've put it quite plainly clear that we're in the position of a case called PowerGen PLC. This is well-tested ground. And in PowerGen PLC, it says, it is a long-established principle of planning law that once a planning authority has granted permission, it is unlawful for an authority to then subvert, inhibit the developer's implementation of that permission. And this is where we are now, unfortunately. I have to put it quite strongly. We then, when looking at the 6 tests of use of planning condition, there are 6 tests. And in PPG, which is what planning practice guidance tells us, members, government, local authority to follow, it confirms any proposed condition.
I will give you another 30 seconds, given the interruption.
Any proposed condition that fails to meet one of the 6 tests should not be used, i.e. you should not use a condition. It then goes on to say conditions that unnecessarily affect the applicant's ability to bring a development forward into a use that or otherwise impact on the proper implementation of the planning permission should not be used. The 6 tests include not necessary, is it not necessary to the relevant development, and is it reasonable in all the other respects? Remembering only one of those tests needs to fail. In this example, we have 3 of the 6 tests that fail. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Mr. Long. We turn now to Councillor David Adams, local councillor. You have 6 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This TRO has been addressed and refused 3 times. Once when conditioned by Planning Committee, 2nd time refused to implement TRO by Cabinet, and the 3rd time the TRO was refused to be implemented by the URTI Committee. And here we are again. The issue involves highway safety. The yellow lines are not needed for highway safety, only to enable a development. There is a TRO policy which Cabinet introduced which deals with these types of circumstances. The TRO policy does not allow for TROs to be implemented, except in exceptional circumstances and with mitigation. There is nothing exceptional about this matter. Since the TRO policy was introduced, the land has been sold to another owner, and the scheme has been represented to try to circumvent the highways TRO issue. The TRO policy did not, therefore, come into force after the current application in its detail or by ownership of the land. Yellow lines at this spot would increase road safety issues, increase speeds, especially travelling from Nettlestone to Seaview down the hill away from this spot. There are issues with bus plays, line of sight and loss of parking. There are claims that the loss of parking will be mitigated by on-site parking spaces. This is nonsense. These, in any case, do not address the increased safety issues brought about by the existence of yellow lines, which will exist even if the development went ahead, because of the small number of homes here and the traffic numbers entering and exiting the site. Additionally, the main road will always be the right of way, and traffic speeds on that road won't be affected by vehicles waiting to exit the site area once developed. This use of the land cannot be guaranteed in perpetuity to remain a car park. Covenants can be lifted. Planning conditions would mean any change had to come back to planning, but it is a highways issue, not a planning matter. And once again, we will see the planners making decisions on highway matters, should any future landowners decide to remove the parking, which is what is most likely happening in due course. The current approach is to lift the condition, which then makes the whole development unsafe from a highways perspective. But the approach is also to push ahead with the development by asking for a TTRO, temporary traffic regulation order, to enable the build out of the site. The TTRO being enforced simply to enable the development. The TRO policy cannot be ignored in this and should prevent this approach anyway. But because of the history of the site, it's clear that planners are trying to find a way around the problem rather than address the issue directly. An application, once built for the permanent TRO to be implemented, will follow build out. It won't be needed except to enable the development, which again falls foul of the TRO policy. Also, because the TRO would need URTI approval, planners cannot guarantee any TRO will ever be implemented at this spot. Removing the condition, therefore, is extremely dangerous and in denial of highway authority decisions. This has to stop for here and more generally across the planning authority. In short, this is not the way forward and requires a complete overhaul of how planning interact with highways and the regulations and policies that exist for the highways authority. Additionally, TRO would drastically increase the speed of traffic as it would remove the natural traffic calming measures from the parked vehicles. This is recognised behaviour due to the vehicles becoming obstacles and acting as a width restriction. The police agree with this. This is a highways matter, and as such, I do not believe a planning issue, and we should not be here again. I repeat, TROs must not be used for enablement. Safety and highways issues are paramount and must be given priority by the experts, not the planners. Conditions are not the answer, and our process and continued flouting of the rules in trying to overturn the Cabinet and committee's 3 refusals are bringing the council into disrepute, and this must be refused as before. What's the policy? What's the point of having committees if we do not respect their decisions and continually override them? The process becomes farcical.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adams. That concludes the public speaking elements of this application. If I could invite public speakers to withdraw to the public gallery, we will then move into our question session. Such as I try to delineate it, it always seems to be mixed, but I think it is helpful for people watching at home. I don't know whether officers have anything they wish to say with regards to the representations made at public speaking, no, in which case, any questions from colleagues? Councillor Quirk.
Other than the road safety issue, there is no reason why this shouldn't be approved. It's been approved a couple of times already by this committee. I agree with something that was said by Councillor Adams, that this is a road issue. I actually think putting a condition on a developer to address road issues which is outside of their control, I'm not sure that's actually allowed, but if it is, I'd like clarification on that. And clarification that it's inappropriate to use road regulations in order to stop a development that was basically opposed originally. Is sound in all elements other than the terms of the road safety. The road has a tiny fraction of the traffic that the road I live on has, and doesn't seem particularly more dangerous than other roads on the island. And the accidents that have occurred there are at the junctions at either end, not in the area in the middle. I'd just like a comment from officers about the use of a TRO in the first place.
Thank you, Councillor Quirk. Ms Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Quirk. It is lawful, in essence, to use a TRO by way of condition. So there is nothing wrong in planning terms to approve a development subject to a TRO if the TRO is considered necessary and appropriate. Obviously, at the time of any application, the highway authority, be a committee, or whether that be Island Roads, or whether that be the council's highway team, are still representing the highway authority. The members have to remember that in planning terms, if a development is unacceptable but can otherwise be made acceptable using a condition, you should always use a condition, not refuse it. There is nothing wrong with conditioning a TRO. There is a slight complexity in this instance in that the council have subsequently to this application being approved with said condition, approved a TRO policy that obviously sits outside the planning process. It is not a policy, it's not a planning policy. And that is where this conflict has arisen. And therefore the application is coming back to seek to remove this condition. But it is reasonable to use a condition to require a TRO if there's a prospect of it being achieved. The challenge comes with this application in that because a TRO has twice been refused, you could argue there is not a prospect of it being achieved, and therefore the condition fails the tests, and it is proposed to remove it.
Thank you. Supplementary, Councillor Quirk.
The policy, the TRO policy, is this clearly in breach of the TRO policy? Because it seems to me the blocking of the TRO is, it can come down to one of three reasons. You don't believe that there's a safety issue to address in the first place. You're using it to block the development, or you're using it as a special favour to the local member. The last two are quite clearly totally unethical and inappropriate. So that leaves that the people making the decision clearly felt that there was no road safety issue. I would suggest that we should actually accept that rationale and vote this to approve this as it stands.
Thank you, Councillor Quirk. Councillor Andre.
Thank you, Chair. I've listened carefully to everything that's been said. I was at the site visit. Well, it is a question, but it follows on very nicely from Councillor Quirk's. What's been said is great. I was part of the cabinet that agreed that TRO, and it's my recollection that that came about largely because of a TRO that was asked for before a planning application had actually been approved. In this case, the planning application has been approved. So I don't see it as the situation has been made very clear by Ms. Wilkinson that that it doesn't pass the test because it can't be used to actually block. And what the officers are actually recommending is conditional approval that this is removed. I think there is that argument that the cars do form a natural chicane. A question I have is, we heard that a TRO needs approval from the Economy, Regeneration and Transport Infrastructure Committee. Is that actually the case?
Ms. Wilkinson, it's possibly a constitutional issue, I think. Is that something you might be able to... Mr. Bolton.
Thank you. Whilst not the Highways Authority, and indeed not the authority on highways matters either, I think it's really important that what we've got to do here is think about what the planning matters are, and look at it through the lens of the planning considerations. So whilst I appreciate that there's a lot around this matter that we need to talk around, I would just ask that members do stay focused on the planning side of things.
Thank you. Supplementary.
I have a supplementary then on that very point. So am I right in thinking that if we do not go with the officer recommendation for conditional approval, that the planning application effectively will not be able to proceed?
Ms. Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chairman. I suppose it's a difficult question to answer. Yes, the application requires that the TRO is agreed prior to work commencing on site. So in essence, unless the matter is resolved one way or the other, the development can't commence until it is.
Thank you.
And that there is betterment through the officer recommendation. There is an element of betterment.
Ms. Wilkinson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As set out in the report, I think with any planning application, councillors, you'll be aware that when we look at an application, there will always be impacts. Well, most of the time there will be impacts. They can be positive impacts, they can be negative impacts. There will always be impacts. The role of a planner in any situation is to balance those impacts. That's what everyone's taught in their training. And when we balance those impacts, we look at the benefits of the scheme and we look at the harm of the scheme. We look at, in terms of applications where there will be transport betterment and there will be some impacts, and actually does the betterment outweigh the impacts? As we set out in the officer report, there would be betterments associated with the application, the relocation of the bus stop, the new pavement, the footpath link to Nettleston Hill, and the car park, which officers still consider to represent a betterment. And therefore those matters should be balanced against the provision of those, as well as the provision of the approved housing as part of this development, and whether those aspects outweigh the harm associated with the removal of the condition and the variation of the other condition. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, that's
Thank
helpful,
you.
Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Spink.
Thank you, Chair. If I may initially, please, there's a couple of parts to this that I don't fully understand, and I wonder if Ms Wilkinson could give me some clarification. Page 27 of your report at the bottom, paragraph 7.32. I'm having difficulty understanding that paragraph. Councillors will note that condition 1 has been amended and condition 2 has also been removed from the list of conditions. This is to account for the fact that the Reserve Matters application has been submitted, and these conditions were controlling the timing of this submission and the matter which were required to be covered within it. I don't understand that, I'm afraid. Could you perhaps explain? Thank you.
Thank you. Ms Wilkinson.
Apologies, councillors. If you bear with me one moment, I'm going to bring the specific wording up so it will hopefully make it clear. Apologies if that paragraph wasn't clear. I wanted to attempt to explain why the conditions went 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that was intentional. It wasn't a typing error. And that's what that paragraph was seeking to identify. If I pull up the original planning permission for the outline consent for this development, I will read you what condition 2 said. So condition 2 of that permission stated, please bear with me, approval of details for the siting, design, external appearance of the buildings and the landscaping hereafter called the reserved matters shall be obtained from the local planning authority in writing before any development is commenced. Because we've received and determined the reserve matters application, that condition is no longer relevant to this application. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. Supplementary, Councillor Spink. I could ask you to use the microphone. Apologies. Thank you.
It's a very good idea. So it's not so much a supplementary, there's 2 points of clarification. So thank you, Ms Wilkinson, for clarifying that. I'm just looking now at the decision notice on the reserved matters, and I'm a bit puzzled. I don't know if I've misread it or not, but it's the refusal of outline planning permission. The decision notice says it's the right land. I don't know if you've, and it refers to where in your report you say, under history, 4.2, removal of condition 19 relating to highway matters, no waiting at any time. Restriction was refused in July 2023. And sure enough, that's right. But the actual decision was refusal of outline planning permission. So the outline planning permission has been refused. Is it appropriate to consider a variation when there is no extant permission, is there?
Thank you, Councillor Spink. Ms Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, let me explain. In planning terms, when you deal with an application for a variation of condition, you consider it in relation to the nature of application that was originally submitted. So when you have an outline consent, the reserve matters is determined in timescale terms as an outline consent. You consider it as a major and it's considered as an outline because you're changing a condition of the outline. So this is simply a, we've now changed the way let me start again. We've changed the way in which we produce the decision notices for applications that seek to vary conditions. If you now seek to vary a condition at the local planning authority, you will have a decision notice that says at the top, application to vary condition under section 73. So it's very clear. Historically, the decision notice used to refer to the original type of application. So it's purely just the application type. It doesn't refuse outline consent because the application has outline consent. You can't take that away It refuses consent to vary the condition of the outline. Hopefully that's clear.
Thank you. That was well explained. Councillor Spink.
I don't see, it just seems, I don't see how I can follow it any further, but it just seems to me to be rather strange that there is a decision notice saying refusal of outline planning permission. And it goes on to say, this is the previous refusal on the, bear with me. Can't see a date on here actually, must be 14th of July 2023. And it says, refusal of outline planning permission, removal of condition 19 relating to highway matters, no waiting at any time restriction. And then it just says, and it says then to refuse outline planning permission in accordance with your application plans and particulars, which were received on the 28th of December 2022. So it just seems to me rather strange, I have to confess, rather odd, that there is a decision notice refusing the outline matters, but we're told that the outline matters have been granted. I just can't work that out, and I don't know really how I should, but there it is.
Notwithstanding the fact that it's more of a comment I appreciate, but I don't know what Ms Wilkinson was nodding at me. I don't know if there was something she wished to add for clarification.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it may just help. I'm not sure if I explained it adequately the first time round, so apologies if I didn't. But in essence, the original outline consent was approved in 2018. That is what was then the subject of a reserve matters application. No process can, through a subsequent planning application, remove that original outline consent. That stands. And therefore, the subsequent variation of condition was referred to as a refusal of the outline, but it's the outline of the removal of the condition, not the original outline. This is why we now change the wording of our decision notices, because we appreciate it wasn't clear at the time. But I think the point is that you're not being asked to consider the variation of a condition in relation to a refused outline. Because if I draw members' attention to the description of this application, it does not say variation of condition 19 on, and then referencing the 22 reserve matters application, which would be perverse. It references the original 2018 application, and that is the relevant outline application that this application is seeking to vary the conditions on.
Thank you, Ms Wilkinson. That's helpful. Hopefully that's clarified as well for people watching at home. I appreciate that it may seem like a morass of labelling and such, but obviously planning authority have tried to find a way to make things a little clearer, albeit I appreciate it is opaque. Further comments or questions from colleagues? Michael, Councillor Lilly.
It's a question really to the Island Roads representative. We as a committee approved something because of a condition, because Island Roads raised safety issues, right? And I think initially objected to the application because of safety issues, road safety issues, and their suggestion to on their objection was to have a condition, or the condition, which ended up being condition 19. It just seems to me a bit strange that we go through all the process with highways, and now Island Roads are now not saying that there are safety issues. I would like to know exactly what Island Roads are saying, because I don't understand.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Mr Troughton, are you able to elucidate? Thank you.
The reason the recommendation for Island Roads has changed is in light of the decision of the Economy, Regeneration, Transport and Infrastructure Committee, who are acting as Highway Authority in their determination of the application to the TRO. They decided it was not required on highway safety grounds. It is not the role of the Island Roads to disagree with the members who are acting as a local highway authority, the statutory function of the council. Therefore, we've accepted the recommendation of that committee, but it is not required for highway safety grounds, and therefore we are agreeing with the removal.
Thank you. I mean, supplementary.
Isn't there still an issue with safety which you originally raised?
I'm loath to put that to Mr. Troutman because I think, well, I'll explain, but please, if I could ask for quiet in the public gallery, simply because Island Roads are in a difficult position. They are acting as the Highways Authority. They have been, as it were, overruled by the council, and we're now asking essentially for them to explain themselves. It's difficult in that situation. Now, I'm simply issuing this as a caveat. Mr. Troughton is free to respond, and I'll ask if he wishes to do so.
I think in light of all the material consideration included in the committee's decision, it is a balancing act as to what degree is the impact going to be on highway safety. In reality, you put a new junction in, you're going to increase the likelihood of collisions because you're introducing opposing manoeuvres by motorised vehicles. I would have said that I wouldn't want to get into a situation where every new junction going in, every new development requires the rear lines. There's an awful lot. The majority of the junctions on the island do not have the rear lines on and do not cause any highway safety problems. Therefore, I think it is a balanced decision. I think we are in a position on this one where we have been told by members representing the Highway Authority there are no highway safety concerns associated with this access.
Thank you very much. To explain to anyone watching at home and to the public gallery, ultimately it is still within the remit of this committee to consider those safety considerations. Those are not OTIOs. My comment was simply as to whether Island Roads wish to comment, given they are in a difficult position with regards to what other committees have said. But I don't know, Councillor Lilly, do you wish to anything else as?
I just feel that as a committee and as a committee member put into a very difficult position where we've actually agreed something, right? It's actually gone to a process, you know, because Island Roads acting for the highways made a recommendation that there was a safety issue and they should have been conditioned. It's gone all the process and in a sense, your recommendations then been refused by the council. We're still left with safety issues. I feel we're being passed the buck back to make a decision which actually should have been sorted out by highways.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Chairman. As a member of the IRT committee, I think most of us know that the Isle of Wight Council is the Highways Authority, not Island Roads. And on the IRT committee, we have highways officers to advise us. So it's not us making the decision against Island Roads, it's our highways officer that you're questioning. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Quirk.
If there's a safety issue, that does raise a few questions about the motivation of Cabinet for turning this down in the first place, because it was a clear recommendation from Island Roads and from our own officers that it should be accepted. But that doesn't preclude them actually coming to their senses after the next election and someone looking at what needs to be done and where on the island. And if this is dangerous, then I'm sure that the officers responsible can reopen the case, so to speak. But it's being used here, from my perspective, to block a planning application. And I think if that happens, I think we'll get taken to the cleaners by the inspectorate when they appeal it.
Thank you, Councillor Quirk. Councillor Spink.
It seems to me that we've had to approach this, and we have hitherto approached this from a planning point of view. Island Roads said quite clearly that there was a safety issue. Those safety issues, as Councillor Lilly has said, have not been completely addressed. Part of the problem, as I understand it, is that without double yellow lines, people who park in the school, in the development, on the development site, which will be members of the public and also school staff, and as I understand it, parents dropping children off, they have to emerge then and cross the road in order to get to the school. And they have to emerge through a line of parked cars. And the best of my recollection is one of the reasons that this application this committee put a double yellow line requirement was because of that safety consideration. Now, it doesn't seem to me that that safety consideration has changed. And really what it comes down to is this, that it's been sent to cabinet and refused. It came back to us and again it was refused, although this time by an officer acting under delegated decision. That is the refusal to take the condition off the papers. It then went to the ERTI committee. They refused to grant it and it's come back to us. Seems to me that if you approach it as a planning situation, a planning application, which it is, we should be refusing this consistent with our previous decisions. Now, it may be that ERTI will consider it again and will come to the conclusion that there are serious safety issues, or they may not. But from a planning point of view, how can we say there are serious safety issues when we resolve to grant planning permission first time round? Then because Cabinet refuses the TRO, it comes back to us in the sense of the planning authority, but it's dealt with by delegated authority by an officer who refuses it to take the TRO, to take the condition off. It then goes back for an application to grant the TRO, which is refused by the ERTI committee, and it then comes back to us. I don't see that this committee is beholden to ERTI. If this committee is of the opinion that this is a safety issue, we should stick, for want of a better expression, to our guns on this, and I should be voting against for that reason. And to answer, if I may, my colleague here, Councillor Quirk, it may be, I don't know, it may be that for whatever reason, the Cabinet and the ERTI were trying to block a decision, a planning decision. I don't know. But we shouldn't, as it were, water down the conditions of that planning permission, because they may or may not be trying to do that. I don't think it's for us to bend here. It's either for ERTI to stick to its guns or for ERTI to bend, or for the applicant to judicially review ERTI or the council. That's my view, and I should be voting against.
Thank you, Councillor Spink. Councillor Andre, then Councillor Quirk. Councillor Andre.
Thank you for indulging me again, Chair. I just want to clarify something that Councillor Spink said, because it doesn't accord with my recollection. When Miss Wilkinson's, available, would it be possible to pull up the plan, not the Google view, but the actual plan that you gave us? Because Councillor Spink mentioned, I think it is an important point, the exit of the car park, the proposed car park, comes onto a line of parked cars. But that's not my recollection.
Ms. Wilkinson, are you able to, have there been any changes? Thank you.
I think if I'm interpreting what everyone's saying correctly, is that this is the layout. So in essence, if there were cars parked down this side of, oh, sorry, you can't see that cursor. My apologies. You can't see what I'm seeing. So if there were cars to be parked down this side of the road, as they were when we were on site visit, the application incorporates a pavement with tactile crossing points there and there. Therefore, should someone exit this car park and choose to go this direction and enter this pavement, when they cross, they will be crossing between parked cars on the out and return route. So, oh, my apologies. On the return route, in essence, if the cars are parked on this side of the road, you'd be on the pavement walking between the cars over onto the pavement. And I believe that is the point that Councillor Spinks was making, not in relation to the site itself. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms Wilkinson. Supplementary, Councillor Andre. Councillor Quirk.
This committee does not act as the Highways Authority. Cabinet acts as the Highways Authority, and I would have thought actually STL should be making the decisions of the Highway Authority, but let's assume that it's legitimate to put it down to the transport element of the environment. Then. But the only legitimate reason for the Highways Authority to override the recommendation of Island Roads and of their own officers is that they disagree with it. And if they disagree with it, that means that they think it's safe, because anything else would be a totally inappropriate decision made that for reasons that are effectively unscrupulous. Now, I'm quite happy to believe that the council acted in good faith and did believe that there wasn't any safety issue. I'm willing to go away and pretend that that's the truth. But if it goes to an appeal, the truth will out.
Thank you, Councillor Quirk. Any comments from colleagues? Councillor Spink.
I think it's a good thing that the truth does out, frankly, and we shouldn't be basing our decision on trying to conceal it.
Thank you. Anything, Councillor Andre?
With your indulgence, Chair, again, I've no wish to stymie debate, but I would like to propose that we accept the officer recommendation of conditional permission, subject to a supplemental legal agreement to link this application to the original permission agreement. And I look for a second, Chair.
Seconded by Councillor Ward. Thank you. Before that, we do have a question from Councillor Lilly. Councillor Lilly.
I just wanted to make a comment, but I'm happy to make a comment. Now we're getting into the debate where we've got a motion on the table.
Would do you wish to proceed with the comments, or sorry, I didn't.
I'm just we've got a motion, so my comment is that I personally feel that the planning committee has been put into a difficult position, and it's a game of ping pong. And I think that I feel that there is a real danger of a precedent being created by taking away condition where we've acted in faith prior to this from advice given to us by the relevant officers. I feel that I find it really uncomfortable, and I think we should put a message back to Highways to say that the planning committee should not be put into this position. I think it's unfair to residents and unfair to the applicant, actually. From that, I feel that there's a point of principle here, so I'll be voting against the proposal, because I actually think there is safety issues there. I went there on the bus. Part of this proposal is moving the bus stop, right? There's no difference of moving the bus where it's actually going. You've still got the problem. It's incredibly narrow. If you see that bus coming round with the cars, to actually in this application we've got sheltered housing, so it's quite likely that people will be using that bus stop. I feel totally uncomfortable that there hasn't been a real address on those safety issues, and we're putting more elderly that's actually going to be in that accommodation. So I'm sorry, for those reasons I'll be voting against.
Thank you, Councillor Lilly. Any comments from other colleagues? I would certainly agree with Councillor Lilly's description of us being in an invidious position. I think the thing that I would highlight, however, is that we, perhaps unlike the other committees, are quasi-judicial in nature. So when we choose to accept or not the balance of evidence before us, it is difficult to go outside essentially what we don't have before us. Now, obviously, Island Roads have not commented on this, so I would suggest there is potentially a limited weight that can be given to any prior safety concerns as a matter of law, given that we are looking back at something that has already been decided. And that is the difficulty for me, that we are placing weight on different elements, as we always have to do, and safety is clearly something that is always going to exercise this committee. We do, however, have a motion before us, so unless anybody else wishes to comment, then we will proceed to the vote. We'll proceed to the vote. So all those in favour of the proposal by Councillor Andre, seconded by Councillor Ward. And against? Abstentions. So the motion is carried and the application is approved. We turn then to members' questions. We have not received anything by email written, but is there anything that colleagues wish to raise now? In which case, I believe that does conclude our business for today. So thank you very much for your participation, colleagues, and good afternoon.
Thank you, Chair.